the state of Nigerian nation is the state of anarchy. No, they never told anybody it will get worse before it get better. They actually said they're here to make it better. And they keep saying the same thing. But the question we need to ask ourselves in the media is that, are you talking to the right people? Because the president doesn't talk to you.
He had a media chat.
Well, that is a choreographed media chat. The choreographed media chat where you have some journalists who probably have been given questions in advance, although they denied it. It's not the kind of media chat. And the media chat once in 2 years, is that a joke? But they have imposed some of the worst human rights abuse on the Nigerian people since they came into power. We have some bloggers right now who are languishing in detention, and all these detentions we are talking about are carried out by the state. Because whenever you go to the
courts... By what law are they putting them in detention? What are they...
Well, it's usually the cybercrime. We've seen situations where journalists have been charged for cybercrime, bloggers. People are languishing in jail. We just had a situation with Dele Farotimi, who was arrested and transported across state line to Ekiti to be jailed for writing a book.
Tó ara ò ní tán lé alára o, a tún ti gbé mi ìdè gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìṣe tiwa. Èyí tí mo wá gbédè yìí ọ̀rọ̀ tó ní ṣe pẹ̀lú tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ láwọn agbègbè àti láwọn ìpínlẹ̀ kọ̀ọ̀kan ni. Bó bá ti yá yín, àròyẹnu tèmi kọ́ lẹ fẹ́ gbọ́. Ẹ já lọ gbọ́rọ̀ lẹ́nu àwọn tó ní ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ yìí. Bàbá wa padà dé ká tẹ̀síwájú.
So it's broadly speaking, when you look at Nigeria, I know I see your activities on X and a couple of other places. There's a lot that is going on within your space. So if I were to ask you, what is the state of the nation? What would be your response?
Well, my response would be that the state of Nigerian nation is the state of anarchy. That's my response. You cannot define what exactly is the state of Nigerian nation.
A lot of anomalies.
Anomalies, just anomalies everywhere in terms of security, in terms of healthcare, education, the general condition of our people, the economic condition, foreign policy. There's nothing you can piece together that will give you one single answer to your question. That's why it's called anarchy.
Wow.
Yes.
So, okay, let's compartmentalize it, maybe break it down. So let's start with your assessment of the management of our resources under President Bola Tinubu. Let's begin from there.
Assessment is that it's total mismanagement of the resources of the country. And I'm not saying it because that's what people want to hear. It is because we were told, as of about a year ago when they took over power, the first decision they made was that they were going to remove subsidy. And that whatever is saved from subsidy will be applied to managing the economy better, to bring about prosperity, to bring about development, and all of that cannot be shown to anyone in the country. I just came back from my state, which is not far, Ondo State, and the state of infrastructure, road infrastructure, that's how I traveled, is the worst I've seen in a long time. I've not seen poverty like I've seen until in recent times. And you could tell that typically when people travel during Christmas and New Year in Nigeria, the roads are jam-packed. But this year, as I'm aware, a lot of people couldn't travel. If there was traffic on the way, it was caused by Nigerian police extorting money from travelers, not traffic due to volume of travel. Of course, yes. I documented a lot of them on our way home.
So you have facts to that effect?
Of course.
Okay, so...
You can even find it on Google Maps. When you're traveling between here and Ore, you just put your travel on Google Maps. Everywhere you see red, most likely there's a police checkpoint there. So it's a satellite-induced fact.
So the pushback government always puts out when we have them on the programs, on our programs, to tell them, this is the state of things. They always say, but we told you that it's going to be worse before it gets better. Do you believe that?
No, they never told anybody it will get worse before it gets better. They actually said they're here to make it better. And they keep saying the same thing. But the question we need to ask ourselves in the media is that, are you talking to the right people? Because the president doesn't talk to you.
He had a media chat.
Well, that is a choreographed media chat. When you go to countries where people are serious about governance, the president doesn't have to invite some special journalists into a room to talk to them about it. They speak on the spur of the moment, on the spot, regarding what is happening as they're happening. But the the choreographed media chat where you have some journalists who probably have been given questions in advance, although they denied it, is not the kind of media chat. And the media chat once in 2 years, is that a joke?
So some of the questions that were asked, I know you have your own position as far as those questions were concerned. Issues around whether he would have thought through the issue of fuel subsidy removal or phase it. He kept to his word and stuck to his guns and said, look, I don't regret what I did. I think I did the right thing and I stand by it. But
the Nigerian people regret that they didn't listen to us in 2022, 2023, that this was going to be their fate. The people who are getting beaten by the economic situation regret everything about where the country is today. They cannot regret because they are the ones benefiting from it. One of the things the president said when he had a media chat I listened to, which was a total joke, was that he had a friend who had 4 Rolls Royces, and now he's now driving a Honda car, right? And nobody questioned, why did your friend have 4 Rolls Royces? But that's not the issue. Ask the president. You came into office with a small private jet. Now you have a jumbo jet. Your situation is definitely better. You came into office with a small Mercedes-Benz car. Now you are driving a gigantic Escalade. And,
but he was a rich man before he became president.
No, he didn't buy the jet with his own money. He bought it from the resources of Nigeria. And that was a $150 million jet. You know.
But they say it was highly discounted. Without speaking for them, I'm just putting back what they are telling you.
So did they show you the paperwork that was discounted? Where did you see it? Because it's a transaction that could have been made public. But I'm just telling you, I don't need to go in that direction. That was a lie. But I'm just telling you that they are better off than they came. But Nigerian people are worse off than they met them.
If things are as bad, and apparently things are really terrible in terms of the economy, everybody could have, even they admit to that effect.
Yes.
Why do you think the Nigerian people are quiet or just holding back? Some are saying we're docile. I don't know what word to use and describe. There is no such strong agitation. You are in the opposition.
Yeah.
You are both a right activist and a politician, so you wear 2 caps. And then we've seen opposition not as active as it should be. So why do you think this is going on?
Well, you know, I will explain it 2 ways. One of it is scientific. And the scientific part is that Nigerians have a gene in their DNA it's called the happiness gene. You know, whatever the situation, they'll be happy. And it's restricted to West Africa. This is true, scientifically. And that's why Nigerians are known as the happiest people in the world, even though they face the worst condition of life or in life. The second aspect of it, it's not true. Nigerians actually came together in August of 2024 and had a massive pushback against the government through the End Bad Governance.
10 days End Bad Governance.
So, and it happened for 10 days. Probably it's not precedented that Nigerians have fought consistently for that long, you know, after an election, not after an election was disputed. Even though the 2023 election is disputed. But the resistance was against poverty and hardship. So you cannot claim that such people across the country that fought against the government face some of the most dangerous conditions against police, army, including after the protests, children being charged with and for treason. You can't claim that those people are docile. That's my opinion.
So that brings me to the question of how safe the civic space is. I know you're a big player in that space.
Yeah.
And I know that you've been following up some cases recently. How would you assess this government in its management and response to dissenting voices?
Well, what is sad about it, and that's why people should be careful with when people come into or try to come into political office with fake credentials, snake oil, that we're going through some of the worst attack on civil rights or civil liberty by the same people who claim that they were civil rights activists. The president reportedly left this country, fled this country because he was running away from military dictators. That's Bola Tinubu. The people who are part of his regime claim they used to be part of the National Democratic Coalition, NADECO, and they fought against military. But they have imposed some of the worst human rights abuse on the Nigerian people since they came into power. I just described to you charging children for treason, which has never happened before in this country, not even under military rule. We've seen situations where journalists were attacked during August protests, and some of your journalists were also actually attacked.
Yeah, where we know.
Including in Lagos on live TV. We've seen situations where journalists have been charged for cybercrime, bloggers. People are languishing in jail. We just had a situation with Dele Farotimi, who was arrested and transported across state line to Ekiti to be jailed for writing a book that they said a dispute, which is completely a civil matter. And before you jump on in and say it's a state matter, don't forget that the Federal Attorney General also filed another charge against Dele Farotimi while he was facing the so-called state charge of offensive publication in Ekiti State, which some has disputed doesn't even exist. So we have some bloggers right now who are languishing in detention, and all these detentions we are talking about are carried out by the state. Because whenever you go to the
by
courts...
By what law are they putting them in detention? What are they...
Well, it's usually the cybercrime...
Because I want to put up, if I can have that picture of the cybercrime law, because some provisions of that cybercrime law have been repealed.
Exactly.
So what exactly are they being...
The police just outrightly refuse to accept the repeal of the law.
So if I can get all of this, maybe when they get to that particular session, this was the old law. Such
Section 24.
Yes, this is like the 2015 part. I want to get to, hey, it knows to be false for the purpose of annoyance, and see all those words. If my producer can hold this is a annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction. I don't know how this is justiciable anyway. Criminal intimidation, enmity, hatred, ill will, and all of that. So if we go to the next law, if they can show me the next one, 2024, the amended portion, because I know you've been interacting with a lot of these people.
Not just I'm interacting, I'm actually facing cybercrime. Okay,
so this is the latest law. Yes. It knows to be false for the purpose of causing a breakdown of law and order, posing a threat to life, and causing such message to be sent. The reason, you're also a stakeholder in the Nigerian in the Nigerian state. Yeah. So I'm wondering where, if this is the amended law, if people were charged in the previous one. I know you say you're not a lawyer, but you've been around the law.
No, I'm actually facing cybercrime charges myself currently.
What did you do?
Well, they said Sahara Reporters, which is a publication I founded, wrote a story against Senator Ned Owoko that he at a point set up a foundation to eradicate mosquito. And Sahara Reporters found out that he wasn't eradicating because we found mosquitoes in his compound in Abuja. So that if you can't eradicate the one in your compound, how are you eradicating on the continent of Africa? So it turns out to be a scam. So I was arrested when I was still under lock and key in Abuja for a different offense, which was treason that you know about, and charged before the Federal High Court in Abuja, Justice Nwite, for annoying him. Same rubbish, you see. But
how do you prove annoyance in court?
Exactly.
I'm just curious.
In fact, as at now, we've appeared almost 5 times. They haven't been able to charge me. You know, like,
you know what?
In the sense that I will appear and will say, look, you haven't fulfilled any of these conditions.
Already, the reason
but they have, what I wanted to say, which is important, is that portion has been expunged from the cyber.
It's been repealed, yes.
It's been repealed. But in my own case, they argue that...
Or amended, sorry, the word is amended now.
Whichever way you want to put it. They argue in my own case that it applies to me because I was charged before the amendment. But what happens to people who were charged after the amendment is the conversation you and I are having here. Why are you still arresting people and charging them because they annoy individuals? You cause them because they don't apply anymore. And what we are saying, for those of us who are carpenters, because that's how lawyers refer to non-lawyers, is that, busybody non-lawyers like me, is that there are civil provisions for libel, defamation, and slander out there. So take that route. And if you can prove your case, you get damages paid to you. So that's how it is done world over. But most importantly, if you are a public official, if you have offered yourself for public, it is very difficult to prove libel.
So
even in advanced society.
So let's balance because you wanted to be president, and I don't know whether you still want to be president. Someday somebody's going to speak against you if you occupy that office somewhere. How do we balance the issue of rights and responsibility? Because we need to balance that.
No, see, if you are going to be president of any country in the world, even if it's a banana republic, your least worry should be what the citizens say to you or say about you. For my 24 years in the US, I watch late night shows, which you are aware of. There's nothing else they do on the late night shows and ridicule their leaders. They ridicule what they are wearing, how they speak, what they have said. If you go to supermarkets in the US, they have a section dedicated to tabloids. The headlines are plainly false. You know, they will show you a picture of Obama and his wife and say that both of them are male, and everybody knows Michelle is female, right? They still even do it on Twitter till yesterday. So if you are president and that's what you want to do, you are not prepared for the presidency. So you don't, as president, go after irrelevancies. So I'm not going to, even as it is now, I get attacked, ridiculed, just as a public figure. I've never sued anybody for it before. People have lied outrightly against me. I'm not going to be running to court and try to get you to answer to charges when I know that I can simply, by disputing it, provide evidence, show that I'm not the person you are talking about. Those things don't apply to me. But even as that, I'm a private citizen. So if I'm president and I'm going to worry about what you say about me, what did I hire the assistants to speak for me for?
Are you going to run again for office?
That is not the conversation we came here for.
Yes, I'm just asking.
The reason I'm saying that
as an aside.
I'm just saying that the reason I'm saying that is I'm not trying to escape an answer to your question. Is that I'm one of the candidates. I'm not a 4-year, electoral candidate. I run all the time, both physically and I run on issues. So if I'm going to make that decision, of course, I'll let you know.
Okay, let's talk about election and electoral reform.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the electoral reform agenda of this administration. If you were to put it forward to them, so for instance, Muhammadu Buhari was able to put out the issue of not too young to run. So we have the ages dropped for certain people to start running into run offices. There are things people expect to happen in terms of maybe IREV and the management of our election. What exactly would you like to see in the reform? Because constitutional amendment is taking place.
The problem is that we're expecting the people who want to benefit from this electoral malfeasance reforming the electoral process. It's not going to happen. They have told you the electoral reforms. They have already shown you are the one who have not seen it yet. They've already populated INEC with APC members, card carrier members.
You have evidence of that?
Of course, I do. And you do too. They've already...
No, you're telling me.
Yes. They've already appointed 11 Supreme Court justices under the Tinubu regime. I have evidence of that. You do too. You may claim that, well, they are qualified to be elevated, but most Nigerians didn't know all these things. And these are the people who will determine the next election. So they have kept INEC under their own control. But if you don't know, just check the off-season elections they did recently, how they went. So if anybody is out there expecting to see a different electoral reform process, well, I have a bridge to sell to you.
Are you saying that by your claims now, we should just lift our hands and give up?
No, we shouldn't.
We can't.
No, we shouldn't. And that's what I always tell people. Is the reason why I tell people who always come after election to cry that the best time to fight is before elections, because you should force the hand of the state and the operators of the electoral system to be clear about what you want to see in an election. If you don't, and the next time we see you is after election, and you say, well, you're keeping an eye on the judiciary, I'm sorry for your eyes, because you're looking directly in the sun. You might end up with conjunctivitis.
So if we want to start that process you talked about now, where do we start from?
We have to be very clear about this demand, be united about it, and force the hand of the government through protests, through all kinds of means, because you're not going to get what you need by appealing to them. It's not going to work. They have shown very clearly that they're impervious to public pressure. So, because the reason is what I stated earlier. They used to be in charge of pressurizing the government. So it's difficult to deal with characters who know the game without changing the players and changing the game too.
So, on a maybe final note, or one more before the final note,
yes.
The government is saying that because of the End Bad Governance protest, yes, which you were actively part of, lending your voice and all of that, they are putting together a national youth conference this year. The president said it in his message, I think the New Year message or so. What do you expect to come out of those kind of conferences? What do you think is the agenda at the end of the day?
The agenda is to compensate some young people who are in their corner. It's just like saying that the Nigerian government is relating with National Association of Nigerian Students, and you expect the students to be represented at such table, when the people who are NANS leader today mostly are not even students. They are students without institutions. So these young people they are calling to a conference are probably Sheyi Tinubu's friends, not Nigerian youths, because they cannot afford to have the real youth on the table.
If they invite you, would you be there?
No, I'm no longer a youth. I might be youthful.
You represent the youths. You're a mid generation. You're in between the youths and the elders.
If I'm invited, I will not go. So let's just be clear about that, because I know in advance that this is a joke. And this is the same thing I said about the conference that Obasanjo held, the same thing with Jonathan's conference. So if nothing came out of those conferences, because they've been pre-planned to fail, nothing will come out of this. But, you know, they want young people to feel like, oh, they belong. So you come to a National Youth Conference, of course, they will get it live streamed, you know, they will get them compensated. And at the end of it, nothing will come out of it. If youth want to take over power in this country, they don't need a youth conference. They need to bond together and take power.
I think the very first time I saw you on TV, on video, was, I think, on 1993, 1994, yes. During the time of MK Abiola. You've been around for a long time.
I have been.
So what is Nigeria missing? Because it feels like there's nothing that is going on that is really working, you know, in your books. What is really working? It's like everything has collapsed in your book.
If something was going on, you would know. You know, like you mentioned, 1993 was the first time you saw me, but that's not the first time I started. I started in 1989, when I was about 18 years old. You know, when you saw me in 1993, you know, on the lighter side, John Momo was a reporter. Now he's probably a stay-at-home granddad. That's how long we've been at this struggle, some 35 years ago, thereabout. But the point to be made is that you also have to call on the youths to also define what they want. Any society in the world where young people are more comfortable with becoming special assistants and advisors to those in power. And when they see young people in other parts of the world taking over power, they praise it, but when it comes to their own country, they prefer old grandfathers or the people we call their ancestors. That society is not likely to move anywhere in the direction of progress anytime soon, because youth comes with energy. That is why there's a retirement age for civil servants. So we've reached a level where we started with young people, the people that brought about independence in Nigeria. In fact, the first political party in Nigeria was called the National Youth Party or something like that, Babat, Macaulay, and the rest of them. The people who fought for independence were in their 20s, governors 23 years old, Obasanjo then when they became president at first were 30s, Buhari when he was first president was 42. But now, in 2025, you don't even know the age of your president. Is that old?
Okay. There's a lot to unpack. By the way, yes. My boss, John Momo, is still active. He's not a stay-at-home grad.
He doesn't do street reporting anymore.
No, he has us to do that for him.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So
I'm just telling you, and I appreciate him, because I remember that day exactly. We used to all go out. You know, they would call us. We'll call them in advance, and they will meet us. It's him and Lekon, who's now late. He died in an accident around here. Very brilliant reporter. So yes, I remember him, and I understand he's still active, but not on the streets anymore. And he deserves it, by the way.
Yeah. Omoyele Sowore is a former presidential candidate of the AAC, an activist. Just told us the lawyer part. Let's keep it aside. No, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me, and Happy New Year.
tó ẹ mà káàbọ̀ o gbogbo èèyàn olólùfẹ́ wa nínú ilé tẹ̀ ń gbádùn àwọn ètò wa ó dẹ̀ dá mi lójú pé òyì tẹ́ wò yìí ẹ ti rí kókó gbámúnú ẹ̀ ẹ má jẹ́ kí n ṣe wàhálà jù nítorí pé èmi mọ̀ pé èèyàn ọlọ́gbọ́n olóye gbajúmọ̀ èèyàn lẹ́yìn tẹ̀ wà nílé tẹ̀ ń wo àwọn ètò wa ẹ ṣáà máa bá wa ṣàsọwọ́ bá a ṣe mú wá fún yín lẹ́lẹ́yọ̀ẹ̀yọ̀ títí wá dìgbà míì táwọn ìjọba àfojú ojú lórí ìkànnì Wo TV pẹ̀lú àkọ́tún ètò gbáǹkọ́gbì míì ẹ ti mọ̀ mí kí n má wulẹ̀ dárúkọ ara mi mọ́ èmi ń lọ mò ń padà bọ̀ ẹ̀yin náà ẹ má kó lórí ìkànnì Wo TV àmọ́ ẹ má bá mi like ẹ máa share kẹ́dẹ̀ máa subscribe títí wá dìgbà yẹn ń kọ́ ire o.